So planning a vacation to Hawaii, but you're really not sure if you should go to Maui or Oahu? Well, today we're going to put them head to head and compare them both so that you can decide which one is going to be best for you. Alrighty, let's start with number one, crowds. Now, crowds could be a good or a bad thing. It depends on the kind of person you are. If you enjoy being around lots of people, you enjoy the energy of it, places where there's lots of people, lots of things going on, lots of stuff to do, you might be totally fine. It might be great for you to go to Oahu. However, if you tend to like a little slower pace, a little less crowds, a little more space, then Maui might be a better option for you. Let me share a few things that will help illustrate what I mean. So Oahu has about 1 million residents, and on average in 2019, they received about 6 million visitors for the whole year of 2019, which meant they got on any given day, around 114,000 people were visiting the island of Oahu at any given time in 2019. Now, if you compare that to Maui, Maui has only about 167,000 residents, and in 2019, they had 3 million visitors, so about half the number of visitors. And on any given day, it was around 66,000 people visiting on any given day in 2019. So that sheer numbers you can see is where Oahu is technically more crowded. So the reason Oahu is a bit more crowded is not only because they have more residents, but it is the capital of Hawaii. So Honolulu itself is a typical big city with high rises. It's just right on the beach, so it's pretty cool. And then Waikiki, which neighbors Honolulu, is where most of the resorts on Oahu are. So when you have that many resorts all in one location, that is why it is so crowded in that area. That being said, just because there's more people doesn't mean that you are, wedged up against them and you can't get some space. What it does mean though is that when you go to the beach, maybe there'll be more people on the beach. When you're going to restaurants and things, there's gonna be more people. But everything is all in one place, so it's very easy to walk around and to explore things. And again, if you like that big city feel, it's really great because it's always something to do, always something going on, never bored, lots of just kind of lively and excitement. So that is in Waikiki and Honolulu. There are other resorts, which I'll talk about resorts in a minute, but you can get away from the main crowds of Waikiki. You could go to Ko'olina or North Shore and stay in other areas, and it would be far, far, far less crowded. So you could still get the slow feel, but all of the benefits of Oahu. Now, if you know for sure you don't want anything to do with crowds or traffic or anything else, then Maui might be the better option. Maui by far is a slower pace, less visitors, still the second most visited island, but less as far as tourism. So it's just slower, gentler, not a ton of things going on at every minute of every day. Everybody just moves at a different pace on Maui. So those are the differences in regard to crowds. All right, moving on, let's talk about price. So when we're comparing Maui and Oahu, the top two visited islands, you are comparing the cheapest island and the most expensive island. And so Oahu is typically, and I'm not saying Oahu is cheap, by no means is any island in Hawaii cheap. But in comparison, Oahu is cheaper to go to than Maui, and Maui is typically the most expensive island of the 4 main islands. I'm gonna share some statistics with you to help illustrate my point. Okay, so Maui, let's talk about Maui first. The average daily hotel cost on Maui is $414. Now, again, these are statistics from 2019, but if you took the entire year, so it includes your high season and your low season, but the average of all hotels on Maui were $414 per day was the average rate. Now, when you look at rental properties, vacation rentals, Airbnbs and so forth, the average on Maui was $343 for the entire year averaged out. They also have some statistics what talk about the per day daily spending on Maui. And so per person, per day, you are spending an average of $211.70 on Maui. All right, so that's Maui. Let's contrast that with Oahu. Oahu, their average hotel daily rate, and again, over all of 2019, averaged out was only $241. The average vacation rental averaged out was $235, and the per person per day amount of money that you're gonna pay was $195. So if it's a price to price comparison, if you are looking, if that's an important factor for you, Oahu is gonna be cheaper than Maui. All right, let's move on to hotels and resorts. Now on Oahu, most of the hotels and resorts, as I said, are located in Waikiki. And this is going to be a wide range of hotels to choose from 2 stars and hostels and things, all the way up to some luxury resorts in Waikiki. However, because it's near Honolulu and it's in that tighter space, it's more high rises and more congested. So where the resorts, you're going to be less space, although there are a few resorts that do have some pretty good space available in Waikiki. But in general, that's why it's more crowded, more hotel rooms in a smaller area. Again, think big city in regard to that type of a feel. You do have a wide range of choices from, like I said, 2-star hostels, different things like that, all the way up to 5-star. And because it's all centered around one major place, you can walk to just about anything you would want. So if you've heard about Oahu traffic and you don't want traffic, you don't actually have to drive in Oahu if you don't want to. You can just stay within the Waikiki area or Uber to some of the places and still be able to have an entire experience nearby, and then just Uber to those few other places around the island that you'd like to visit. Now, Oahu is not only Waikiki and Honolulu. You can escape the crowds if you don't want to be in the big city. And you can go up north a little bit to Ko'olina. Ko'olina is a beautiful little protected cove area that has some of the best resorts on Oahu. They have Aulani, which is Disney's resort. They also have the Four Seasons, so it's more luxurious up there, more luxurious 5-star resorts can be found in the Ko'olina area. If you keep going north to North Shore, you can also find a 5-star resort there as well, and then a smattering of other inns and B&Bs and the rest of the island. So by no means do you have to stay in the hustle and bustle of downtown. You can stay other places, and then if you do want to come in for some nightlife or some shopping or something like that, you can certainly just take an Uber down to Honolulu and Waikiki to experience it, but then stay in a quieter area. Now, comparing that to Maui, Maui has the most luxurious resorts of all of the island chain. They have the Hotel Wailea, which is one of the top 21 most romantic resorts in the entire world. It's an adults only resort. And if you are thinking about that, I have a Where to Stay on Maui video, which I'll link above here, which will talk a little bit more about that. They also have things like the Montage Resort and the Fairmont Resort. So lots of luxury resorts. Part of the reason why they're more expensive than all the other islands, but they also have more space. So if you're talking about a resort on Maui, you're going to have, everything's going to be more spread out. You're not going to have everything right on top of each other like you are in Oahu, especially if you're staying in Waikiki. You're not going to find a bunch of high rises in Maui. You are going to find them on Oahu, but only in the Waikiki, Honolulu area. Everywhere else in Oahu is not congested like that. It's just in the Honolulu, Waikiki area. All right, so that's resorts. Now, let's move on to nightlife. Now, as you can imagine, if Oahu has a big city and tons of stuff in a small area, they're gonna have better nightlife than Maui. So Maui does have some areas that have things open a little later, like Lahaina and Kihei have restaurants and things that could be open a tiny bit later. But for the most part, most people out at night are home in bed by 10. It just doesn't get as lively as it would in a Honolulu or a Waikiki. So even if you went on New Year's, it's still very, very, very quiet on Maui. So if you are somebody that does not care about nightlife, like you're fine going out to a restaurant or bar or something, but you're fine being home early, Maui's perfect. Really great dining, but not out until 2 in the morning partying. Now, if you do enjoy nightlife and it's a big part of what you want your vacation to be, then absolutely Oahu is the place for you to go. Of all of the islands, Oahu's the best. Because again, Honolulu, Waikiki, Chinatown, all have restaurants and bars and things to do late into the evening. There's different shows and things you can do. You never run out of things to do in those areas. It's always very, very lively and going. And so if nightlife is important to you, Oahu, hands down, is the best place to go. All right, let's move on to beaches. How do the beaches compare? If you are going to Hawaii because you're planning on spending most of your time at the beach, this is an important factor. Now, this is very subjective because, one person might look at this beach and think it's the most beautiful, and the other person might look at the other one and think just the same thing. So it's very subjective. But in general, as far as beauty goes, it is said Oahu has some more beautiful beaches available to it. However, those beaches are more crowded because Oahu in general is more crowded. Maui has beautiful beaches as well, but less crowds. So it just depends on which is more important to you. Are you wanting the most picturesque and you enjoy having crowds, you enjoy the energy of having people around you? Oahu is a great bet. If you want to be more, feel like you're on a deserted island more, not always. I mean, there are going to be some crowds in Maui, but if you want to be more to yourself and more space and less crowds, but still have beauty, Maui's the best option. Beach-wise, Maui also has the best snorkeling in Hawaii, I think possibly even in the world. They're up there in the best snorkeling in the world. They also have the best whale watching. So if those are things that are important to you and that you're looking forward to doing, Maui is the better option. They do have those things on Oahu, but if it's head-to-head comparison, Maui is better in those things. So that is kind of what you need to gauge. Beauty in crowds or less crowds, maybe a tiny bit less beauty. But let's be honest, it's Hawaii, every beach is amazing. But more snorkeling and whale watching and more water activities that are higher quality per se, kind of, in Maui. Alrighty, let's move on to non-beach activities and compare those two. So Maui has a lot to offer. It has your typical luau's and hiking and waterfalls and beautiful drives and let's see, what else do they? Oh, they have ATV rides. They have stargazing. They do have a lot to offer. But if you were to compare Maui's number of activities to Oahu's number of activities, Oahu's going to beat it out just in sheer number of things that you can do and options. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. If the number of activities that Maui has to offer are plenty for you, you're fine with that, you're happy with that, and you do want more downtime, you don't have to be going every minute of the day, then Maui might be perfect. And if you're wanting to understand what some of those activities on Maui are, I have a video up here, which I'll link up here, which covers all of the activities you can do on Maui that the other videos aren't talking about. It just kind of gives you a more behind the scenes other options that you have on Maui. So again, I'll link that up there. So if that's what you want and you want the less crowds and everything, then Maui is still a fantastic option. But on the other hand, if you are like some people I know, like my mom, who enjoys walking, like constantly having something to do. She's not happy just laying on the beach. She wants to go and go and go and go. Oahu is going to be a far better option for her. Oahu has all the same things as Maui as far as luau's and hikes and different tours and things, but even more because it also has history, such as Pearl Harbor, culture, such as Iolani Palace. It has museums. It has the shopping and the nightlife and the restaurants. There's good restaurants on Maui too, but it has all of that. It has all of the best hikes. It has every kind of tour you can imagine, every kind of activity you can imagine are all available on Oahu. So you are never bored. There's never a dull moment if you stay in Oahu. So in regard to activities head to head, if you want lots and lots of options and at a moment's notice be like, hey, let's go do this, Oahu would be great. If you're okay with a certain set number of activities and you're fine and happy, relaxing and less crowds, Maui is your better option. All right, and then finally, let's talk about weather. Now, even though it's an island chain, there's a lot of similar weather between Oahu and Maui, but in general, if you were to look at the graphs, Maui actually gets the least amount of of rainfall over the course of a year. So it does have rainy season and wet season in the winter and such. So don't think you're going to go to Maui and it's never going to rain. But if you compare them to all four islands, Maui typically has the least amount of rainfall. Next to that is Oahu. It has the next amount of rainfall. So it's not that different. And to be honest, it's not necessarily going to make or break your decision between Oahu and Maui. But if it's maybe tips the scales in one way or another, I present this to you for that use. Alrighty, so if you found this helpful at all, if you can give us a thumbs up, that would really help us out. And other than that, these videos should be able to help you with any future vacation needs that you have to help you plan. And if we can be of assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out. Other than that, have a great day, happy travels, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.